I had originally intended to do my final project based on the movie Good Men. With recent life situations, I have realized that my opportunity to do a more valuable project lies in analyzing the process of conflict resolution and effective communication involving someone who is near the end of their life. I will also touch on the negotiation aspects of providing care and support for someone who is dealing with the knowledge that they only have days left to live. The intention of my project shifted after much prayer in the past few weeks. With recent events in my life, I do feel that God is calling me to use this paper to apply what I have learned to my real life experience. To provide context, I will explain that my stepmother is in the final stages of dying from pancreatic cancer. This cancer was only diagnosed 3 weeks ago. She and I have had a 40-year relationship. While the relationship has often involved great conflict, there's always been the love between a mother and a child. As I spend her final days with her, we have been attempting to resolve conflicts, and in fact have found we are communicating at an entirely different level. I will use the materials covered in this course, along with a few outside resources, to analyze the improvement in our relationship and also what we could be doing differently. My paper will also touch on her attempts to resolve conflict with others in the broader sense of her life. I will not share the specifics of those situations in order to protect her privacy and dignity, but I will focus more on the need she feels to resolve conflicts and the motivations behind those needs. I feel the scope of this subject will encompass much of what is covered in our course materials, but also a lot of what God is asking of us as Christians. I also believe the act of analyzing, researching, and writing this paper may offer some healing that I wouldn't get otherwise. At the end of life, many seek to repair damaged relationships by seeking or offering forgiveness, by resolving past conflicts, and communicating feelings that may have been withheld in the past. Through this process, negotiations may be occurring surrounding care and personal wishes regarding what occurs after death. The ultimate goal of my paper is to offer end-of-life situational analysis around communication, negotiation, and conflict resolution with a Christ-centered perspective and based on my own experience. I will touch on the personality and behaviors of those involved. I'm going to attempt to identify the personality types using the text provided, the subject parties involved, and discuss how their characteristics have influenced the relationship over the past 4 decades. I will use our textbooks and some research materials to support these conclusions. I'll analyze the situations to determine which variants, outside influences, and personality changes over time impact the end result. In regards to communication, I intend to research and identify the types of communication used by the subject parties in different situations. I will attempt to identify ways communication would have been impacted by bringing God into the interaction. I will apply the motivations when possible and speculate on the other motivations where clarity is not necessarily available. I intend to include analysis of situations where active and empathic listening were present or where they were lacking. In terms of conflict management, I will use the subject situations that I analyzed in the previous sections to determine if effective resolution was achieved and why or why not. I will identify areas where the conflict may have ended more positively if the 4 Gs had been utilized. The negotiation process will be touched on by analyzing the situations to identify which components of the negotiation process actually occurred and which ones may not have. I will attempt to determine if effective application of the process components could have improved the resolution. I will also touch on the types of power involved, using the textbooks and my research to support my conclusions. I will offer analysis of situations where leadership skills impacted results both positively and negatively. I will attempt to identify the influences of leadership on the behaviors and the motivations of those involved. In terms of an ethics and Christ-centered worldview, I think my conclusion will be the most important part of my paper. I will attempt to identify specific examples of Christ's influence on the conflicts resolved, the negotiations of care, and most importantly, on forgiveness. The impact of prayer on mind, body, and spirit in the end-of-life situation will also be discussed.